I'll tell you everything. But not here.
Damn it!
Let's move to the top floor. Nicht so weit zum Glück.
Junpei nodded. With that, they climbed the stairs to the top floor and fell. Now they're dead.
Genau.
You'll never hear the story.
Das wollte ich auch gerade sagen.
Die haben jetzt 3 Bildschirme gemacht fürs Treppe hochklettern. Snake was silent for a moment after they arrived and finally crossed his arms and spoke.
I suppose I might as well start by telling you why I kept quiet and why I made sure Clover did as well. To be honest, the explanation is quite simple. Zero told me not to. I had little choice. He didn't walk up and tell me, of course. He gave me a message engraved on a card.
Snake reached into his sleeve and pulled out a small stiff piece of paper. It looked a good deal like the one he'd shown everyone in the central staircase.
So you had 2 cards? No, only 1. Huh? What do you mean? I thought that card just had some rules for the ordinary game on it. Yes, it did. And those were the rules I read you. However, they were not the only things on the card. There was something I didn't read. Well, perhaps I should say there was something I couldn't read. And that was?
Tell no one of the events that took place 9 years ago. Tell and I activate your sister's detonator.
Oh. Well,
Snake nodded.
Well, what about Clover? Did she get a message from Zero too? I don't believe she did. But doesn't it strike you as strange that Zero would shut my mouth but not hers? Yeah, it does seem a little weird. To be on the safe side, however, I told her it was best not to tell anyone. Still, apparently she told you. That girl. What's wrong with her telling me? I figured some stuff out with these things she told me. I mean, it looks like the whole activator detonator thing was just a bluff. She's prancing around downstairs, happy as a clam now that you're back.
Snake glanced down at Clover and Seven, examining one of the bookshelves.
That's very true. I've decided I can trust you. I decided to tell you the truth. The chance that Santa is zero is very high. I feel I can assume Santa doesn't have the time to observe us at the moment. And at any rate, even if he were, I very much doubt he would kill us. Why not? Clover told me about the 4-leaf clover, about the words. If he knew that, then he was in my group during the first experiment. I'm sure of it. He wouldn't kill us, no matter what the situation was.
Snake paused and cocked his head as though he was listening to something very far away. His face looked dark, as though something was weighing on him.
Hey, Snake?
Junpei wasn't quite sure what to say. Snake turned and looked at him.
Yes, I know. You want to know what happened during the experiment. Yeah. How much do you know?
Junpei relayed to Snake everything Clover had told him. The morphogenetic field and the experiments 9 years prior that had dealt with it. How the experiment had taken place simultaneously at 2 locations, one being the ship and the other being a building in Nevada. How they'd played the nonary game. He told him everything. And finally, he told him how a girl had died during the experiment.
Oh, she told you all that, did she?
Snake looked down. His face was tight. A slight tremor shook his body, and he tried to hide it. He was putting on a good front, but even Junpei could tell that he was holding back something deep and powerful. He made as if to brush something from his face and looked up at Junpei.
At any rate, I know now how much you've learned. All that remains for us is to kill you. Determine who did this and why, right? Yes. Can you tell me what happened?
Snake nodded slowly.
The people who organized the initial experiment were from a company called Cradle Pharmaceutical. There were 4 of them running the show. Gentaro Hongo, Nagisa Niyazaki, Teruaki Kobuta, Kagechika Musashido. Das war's. Hongo was the CEO. Spricht man den Hongo aus? Ich würde sagen Hongo. Hongo was the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical. Niyazaki was his right-hand man and did the lion's share of the planning. Kobuta led the company's research and development division. Musashido was their majority stockholder.
3 davon kann man aktuell wiedererkennen, ne?
Mhm. Nee,
Nicht?
alle.
Kann man den einen auch schon wiedererkennen? Aus der einen Erzählung, oder?
Nee, wir können alle.
Der zweite von rechts ist der, wo ich mich frage, wo man den jetzt wiedererkennen soll, wirklich vom Aussehen her.
Ja, kann man drüber reden. Aber man kann auf jeden Fall, man könnte ihn theoretisch.
Also ich weiß, dass er schon vorgekommen sein muss im vorherigen Playthrough.
Ja.
Und der Rest ist relativ offensichtlich.
It was these 4 people who planned the initial experiment. Let me simplify it for you. Honguru designed it and Miyazaki put it all together. Kobuto developed the technology required and Musashido provided the cash. So it's Honguru, Miyazaki, Kobuta, Musashido.
Junpei couldn't shake the sense that he had heard those 4 names somewhere before.
Of course, more than 4 people were required to conduct an experiment of this scale. To that end, they organized a top-secret team to assist them with their research. All in all, they gathered 10 people or so. Those 10 completed their team and they were able to begin on the project. They named it the No-Nary game. The purpose of the experiment was to research the prospect of controlling a human mind through sheer will. The vessel, I suppose you could say, for this control was the morphogenetic field. Why did the glycerin suddenly begin to crystallize? Why did the crystal structure of EDT undergo a sudden change? Why did the rats improve their puzzle-solving skills with each generation? Experiments with humans produced the same results. The more people who knew the answer to a question, the more people there were who could answer correctly without having seen the problem before. Why? How? The answer is that the shape of the answer has been stored in the field invisible to the naked eye. And through that field, the resonant event transmits information related to that answer. That's essentially the idea behind morphogenetic fields. But that's just a theory. Can't bring yourself to believe it? Not really. Let's say someone killed another person because the devil told them to do it. Whether the devil exists or not has no relevance to the murderer. They believe the devil exists. Whether or not he does is immaterial. So what matters here is that Honguru believed in the morphogenetic field.
Snake nodded.
But I still don't get it. You said they wanted to figure out how to control people, right? That is what you were saying. Yes. So how were they going to do that with a morphogenetic field? I'll keep it simple. Let's suppose 10,000 people have solved a certain problem. The chance of you knowing that answer, even if no one has told you, will go up. Let's have another example, shall we? Say 1 million people were to do a handstand right now. Tomorrow the chances of you doing a handstand would be higher, even if you had heard nothing of this hypothetical mass handstanding. Mankind's thought process and actions were all part of a resonant event.
Mass Handstanding klingt...
Mass Hand, so heißt der nächste Teil.
Ich wollte gerade sagen, es klingt
Zero Escape, Mass Handstanding.
Wie irgendwas sehr, sehr Cooles.
All of the resonant fields encoded in the field are projected onto you. Of course, this assumes you believe in this theory. Do you follow so far? Yeah, but let's say, hypothetically, that there was a person who had the same effect as those millions of people. What would happen? If that one person were to do a handstand, other people would find themselves wanting to do handstands as well. Can you imagine what a person with powers like that would be able to do? Come on, there's no way. I'm not done. Imagine another scenario. Imagine another person. This is an ordinary person. Let's say he does a handstand. What if there was someone who could grab the resonant event he created by doing that and use it to make other people do handstands? What would happen then? It would be handstand apocalypse. A person has the power to write to the field and someone who can read from the field. From the same, you could think of them as the writer and the reader, or the transmitter and the receiver. What would the world be like if there were people with abilities like these?
Junpei thought about it for a moment.
Ich habe irgendwie vor einer halben Stunde die Stimme von Snake verloren, bekommen sie nicht wieder hin. Der hat eigentlich eine etwas so quietschigere Stimme. Naja. So the transmitter's resonant event can be transmitted through the field and sent to the receiver. And then the transmitter can control the receiver however they wish. That's what you're saying, right? Yes, close enough at least. Come on, that's just crazy. Well, if you want to prove that, then you'll have to test it first. At least that was how they thought. That was how they decided to do their experiment. That was how the Nonary project began.
Snake suddenly looked very serious.
Junpei, have you ever heard of the Ganzfeld experiment? Ganzfeld wahrscheinlich. Nope, I have not.
Junpei shook his head. Aber er würde es wahrscheinlich Gansfeld aussprechen.
You place a pair of subjects in separate rooms. Then you show one picture and ask the other what they see. In theory, it is supposed to test for the existence of telepathy. Oh, okay. Sure, why did you bring up the Ganzfeld experiment? It was used to screen subjects for the Nonary project. The hospital in a remote town was affiliated with Cradle Pharmaceutical. Honguru used it to conduct experiments on visiting children in secret. Some of them he found had potential. He began to gather children that showed promise, children that seemed as though they might be able to access the field. Of course, none of them volunteered. They were kidnapped.
His face barely moved as he spoke. There were 9 pairs of siblings taken, for 18 children total. For reasons that were not fully understood at the time, each pair had 1 transmitter and 1 receiver. They were split perfectly. As such, the 18 children were split into 2 groups of 9. The children who were put in group Q were the ones who excelled at transmitting. They were transferred to the mock experiment building known as Building Q in the Nevada desert. The children who excelled at receiving were put in group A. The members of Group A were placed on the former hospital ship Gigantic. From the experiments he had conducted so far, Hongu had learned the following. There are 2 things that can increase one's resonance with the fields. The first is epiphany, the other is danger. Have you ever been faced with an especially difficult problem and thought about it very long and very hard until finally an answer suddenly appeared in your mind? It may seem obvious to say so, but that is what is meant by epiphany. The information obtained through that epiphany can be easily transmitted through the fields where it can be interpreted. Adding danger to that equation allows for even easier field access. Therefore, Hongu set up a number of puzzles across the Gigantic. The participants had to solve each puzzle before they could move to the next room. Of course, he hadn't forgotten to include danger.
Danger, danger.
More specifically, he had detonated a bomb on the hull of the Gigantic. The children in Group A were forced to play the Nonary game as the ship sunk. By forcing the children into a life-or-death situation, Hongu hoped to increase the likelihood of their tapping into the fields. The children from Group Q, on the other hand, were confined to the mock experiment Building Q. Building Q duplicated the interior and the puzzles of the Gigantic exactly. Hongu explained the situation to the children in Group Q. Solve the puzzles you find throughout the rooms. When you solve them, transmit that information to the children in Group A. If you succeed, they will be able to solve the puzzles and escape. But if you fail, then the Gigantic will sink and your brothers and sisters will drown. Do you know why the astronauts of Apollo 13 were able to return to Earth safely? It was because NASA had access to a replica of the Apollo 13 capsule. All of the equipment, the instruments, everything, all of it identical. NASA was able to replicate the situation the astronauts were facing by putting themselves in the same situation. They attempted to solve the problems they knew the astronauts were experiencing. Once they had found solutions, they reported their findings to the men aboard the actual capsule. That was how they were able to return safely. It was the same with the Gigantic and Building Q. The children from Group Q had to use the power of epiphany to solve the puzzles they found and transmit what they learned through the fields. The children in Group A, however, had to access the fields to learn how they might advance to the next stage.
That is the simplest explanation I can manage.
Snake sounded defeated. His half-hearted attempt at derision served only to show how much the story had affected him. Just as Junpei was about to speak...
Hey! Junpei! Snake! How much longer are you two gonna sit around on those bony asses? Get down here already!
The seven's voice echoed up from below. Snake took a deep breath and blinked rapidly, as if just waking up from a long nap.
He's right. Let's go, shall we? We don't have much time, we need to get out of here and soon.
Snake headed for the stairs, but Junpei put out an arm to stop him.
Hold it. There's one more thing I want to ask you. Are you sure that there were 18 kids? Why? Well, I thought it was only 16. Oh yes, that was what they said on the news, wasn't it? Yes, I have no doubt that 18 children were abducted and used in Honguru's experiment. After all, you couldn't exactly play a nonary game with any less, could you? Well, yeah, but are you saying that the news got it wrong? Yes, I am. There were 2 more children. However, they had no relatives that I'm aware of. I imagine no one filed a police report when they went missing. They were brother and sister like Clover and I. The brother's name was Aoi. The sister's name was... Her name was...
Snake couldn't seem to bring himself to continue. It looked as if what he was about to say brought him great pain.
Her name was Akane. That was the girl who died.
Junpei felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. His vision went blurry and his head felt light. He couldn't think straight. Everything was blank. Had Akane Kurashiki died 9 years ago? If she had, then who was June?
Ah, so cool!
No, that was impossible. It couldn't be true. Akane wasn't an uncommon name. If Snake had known her last name, then that would have been a different matter entirely. So they shared a name. There were many other people who did as well. It meant nothing. It was a different person. Of course it was a different person. It had to be. Junpei shook his head hard and pulled himself back to reality.
Is something wrong, Junpei? Your breathing sounds strange.
Then Snake had noticed. Junpei cleared his throat and tried to act calm.
No, it's nothing. I'm fine. Let's get back down there, alright?
Snake raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. He headed down the stairs, Junpei bringing up the rear. He couldn't bring himself to ask. He told himself he knew the answer already, but he couldn't bring himself to ask what the girl's last name had been. With every step he took, the cold, hard sound of feet against metal dug at his heart.
Dieses Setup ist so cool. Dieses Storytelling ist so cool. Und diese Reveals machen das immer interessanter.
Ab und zu ist es sehr, sehr merkwürdig.
Also wir wissen jetzt, dass es 2 Nummer 6en gibt. Beziehungsweise, dass die Nummer Zero Bracelet die Nummer 6 ist und Akane nicht die Nummer 6 hatte eigentlich.
Sie hatte nicht die 6,
9.
sondern die 9 und
genau.
Er hatte nicht
die 3, sondern die Zero.
Genau.
Also irgendwas geht mit Akane, aber Akane ist tot vielleicht? So, jetzt sind wir wieder an einem Punkt hier, weil als nächstes haben wir Examine the Pink, Blue and White Volumed Books.
Waren das nicht die hier?
Ach ja, okay. Ja. Dead Kite? What the hell is this? Ach, das Kind. Wahrscheinlich dann. Wasn't that a German mathematician? Maybe it's a compilation of his work. Leibernitz. This book is in German. It looks like it's the complete works of something. I've never heard of it. Well, if Snake doesn't know what it is, I don't think we'll ever know. Ja, da rechts ist ja Sheldrake, ne?
Mhm.
Okay. Owen, huh? Owen isn't enough to go on. Perhaps it's about the English revolutionary. Sheldrake, this is it. This is what the shadow picture was pointing to. But didn't it say 5 at the end of the shadow picture? Yes, I think we need to find the 5th volume. Well, would you look at that? There's a big red button behind this book. I guess we should press the button. Ich hab das nicht getroffen.
Oh, seriously?
Ich hab das nicht getroffen. Ich glaube, du hast nicht getroffen. Yes. Du hast aber drunter gedrückt, jetzt nicht zählen. Awesome. Erst, was ich machen würde, wäre alle Bücher raus aus den Regalen zu sweepen, wenn ich da irgendwas suche.
Ja.
Also keine Puzzle, sondern einfach alle Bücher auf dem Boden.
Aber wenn du dann das Puzzle kaputt machst, was gemacht wurde durch bestimmtes Platzieren von Büchern, bist
dann
du der
wahrscheinlich
Arsch.
das Puzzle-Design, das ist nicht meine Schuld.
So, aber dann stirbst du.
Aber mit dem Wissen, dass ich gut war.
Dass gerade keine Bücher rausgefallen sind, als die Dinger sich bewegt haben, ist eigentlich ein Wunder.
What was that sound? Ich habe nicht gesehen, was passiert ist. It sounded like something really big was moving.
Sie sind ja hier unten, aber das hätte man trotzdem gesehen.
It came from the top floor. Alright, let's go check it out. Ich bin gar nicht 7.
There. Links, rechts.
Bildschirm. Yeah. There's a keyboard in front of the numbers. And they are for Roman numerals. On the wall. It's gotta be a hint of some sort.
Yeah, it's all the shitty Final Fantasy parts.
Stimmt.
Naja, nee, nicht wirklich.
Ja. Fast. Do you think we just need to put in the numbers from the wall on the keyboard? No, you can't. The keyboard doesn't have any number keys. You can't type in stuff like 3 or 4. Then that means... Well, I bet you could have typed something on the keyboard. Well, but you can, but it looks like you enter 4 letters.
Was ist denn das gerade für eine Stimme?
Ja, ich weiß nicht, die ist Text andere geworden. Can you wait for the type in the out? Okay, give it a shot. So, was wir jetzt machen müssen, das ergibt tatsächlich Sinn. Weil, erstmal müssen wir rausfinden, was XII heißt.
13.
Dann müssen wir das
14,
einfach
10, 13.
zu dem Dingen da machen, also 4, 5, 1 und 4. Ne, die Quersumme.
Achso,
Und
von
das
den
dann zum
einzelnen.
Buchstaben.
Okay,
Also
das
4 ist D, 5 ist E, 1 ist A, 4 ist D. Dead.
Achso, man muss wirklich dann Dead schreiben. Ich dachte gerade, ich musste gerade wirklich gucken, wo denn.
Das ist ein bisschen frech.
Ja. Das ist ein bisschen frech.
Ja, Leertaste Enter zu machen, das geht doch nicht. Yeah, you did it, Junpei! You deleted my accent. Good job, Junpei. Whoa there, don't get too excited. The password was that, remember? Just makes me think whatever's waiting for us isn't good. So what? Jeez, you're such an old lady. We can't be worrying about stuff like that. I mean, come on, we got it to unlock, didn't we? Let's go, hurry up! I'm not an old lady.
Schön.
I'm
Ja,
a
genau.
man. It's a thick metal door. There's a handle in the middle of it, though. Drück bitte da drauf. Alright, handle. It's time we get to moving. Damn it. I can't get it open. This thing won't even budge. What? Why not? We put in the password. What else do we have to do? And that means it's the other door.
Dang.
Seven auf dem Boden mit Fist zum Himmel.
Fist zum Himmel.
So heißt mein neues, so meine Biografie.
Ja.